I will give thee for a light to the Gentiles. And what the Lord means by this is that he was going to give the Lord, or Jesus, as a light to the Gentiles. And after Jesus ascended to heaven, Paul and Barnabas were the ones who taught the Gentiles. Meaning, and when we say Gentiles, we mean Caucasian people. You know, it's real strange how things happen. I was just on the phone yesterday talking to a brother in Baltimore, Maryland, right? And so next thing I know, he's like, man, I just saw some Israelites out here. You know how you have the street preachers out there, the brothers. And so he happened to run into some out there preaching. And the very thing that they were talking about when he put me on Messenger and let me see him was how that this word was only for the children, thank you, brother, for the children of Israel. And I was like, man, that's the lesson I've been, thinking of doing all week. And so, of course, they went back and forth and back and forth. He's going back and forth, but he's a Roman brother, but still, though. So I had him, I said, well, you can shut him down from that. Just hit him with Revelation, the 7th chapter. And after he hit him with Revelation, 7th chapter, which we're going to read, everybody started laughing. He threw his hands up. Everybody started laughing. He just walked over. I was like, hey, that's it. Case closed.
That's it, brother.
So we're going to deal with this today, and we're going to show you that, like the Lord said, he's going to give people a light to the Gentiles. And so we're going to see that the Gentiles, because they say that when you say Gentiles in the New Testament, it's talking about Israelites or Jews. I'm like, no, it's not talking about no Israelites. Now, there was Jews among Gentiles who lived in Gentile cities, and more specifically, Greek cities as well as Roman cities. And so, by these Jews living amongst these Gentiles, they said, well, that's who the apostles with Paul was teaching. It was Israelites or Jews. So we're going to show you that those Gentiles that Paul taught and Barnabas taught, and Peter started out teaching, those were Caucasian people. Okay? All right, so now, let's go to Isaiah the 56th chapter, Isaiah 56. Because I wanted, I like to start off right here just to show you that this is not about Jews and Gentiles. This is about Jews, Gentiles, as well as the strangers, meaning everybody else. It just so happens that the Lord put the children of Israel at this time, like during the first century, put them among the Gentiles. And if you go all the way back to the time of Alexander the Great, who you think was ruling the world at that time? It was the Gentiles. It was the Greeks. And so you had the Greeks, they conquered Israel just like they conquered Egypt. Just like they conquered Persia. And so Alexander the Great, he wound up being a friend of the Jews. But anyway, we're going to Isaiah the 56th chapter. We're going to pick it up at verse 6. Isaiah 56 and 6. Go ahead and read.
Isaiah chapter 56, verse 6. Also the sons of the stranger that joined themselves to the Lord to serve him, and to love the name of the Lord, to be his servants, every one that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it.
Now he said, look, the sons of the stranger. So the sons of the stranger, that could be anybody of another nation. Anybody. Also the sons of the stranger that joined themselves to the Lord to serve him. So anybody of any nation can serve the Lord.
Teach.
Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir. Excuse me. And to love the name of the Lord, to be his servants, even one that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it.
Everyone that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it. Go ahead.
And taking hold of my covenant.
See, so anybody of another nation can take a hold of the Lord's covenant.
Very plain, brother.
It's not just for Israel. I mean, he gave it to Israel to give it to everybody else. Or all the other nations. Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir. Verse 7.
Uh-huh.
Even them will I bring to my holy mountain, and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices shall be accepted upon mine altar. For mine house shall be called an house of prayer for all people.
Now, is that clear?
Indeed.
So he said, and then how are all people, how is this house going to be a house of prayer for all people except they hear and keep the word of God? Otherwise, how can they become a part of the house of it? For my house should be called a house of prayer for all people. How could they become a part of this house if they don't hear his word and keep it? Go ahead and read verse 8. Go ahead.
The Lord God, which gathered the outcasts of Israel, saith, Yet will I gather others to him, beside those that are gathered unto him.
So he's going to gather others to him, besides the children of Israel. Now this is plain English.
Yes, sir.
Plain scripture.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you close that door right there? Tell them to keep that door closed, please. All right, now, that's why we got that room there for it, right? But anyway, let's make it a little bit plainer. Let's make it a little bit plainer. Let's go to Mark. Now this is Jesus here. Mark, the 11th chapter. And look at what Jesus is saying. You know, I know my brothers, a lot of them mean well. You know, they get on the Gentile. What country you from? Well, I'm from Greece. Well, this ain't for you then. What country you from? Well, I'm from Botswana. Oh, no, this definitely, this ain't for you. Calling them dirty Africans and, you know. I'm like, man, this is not the way the children of Israel are supposed to teach other people. This is not, even if you're not, let's just say hypothetically, you're not supposed to teach other people. You're still not supposed to talk to them in a bad way.
That's right. Yes, sir.
You know, this is how we have gotten a bad rap in Israel. It's because our brothers are going out, telling everybody, telling people of other nations, this is not for you. Calling the Hamite a dirty Hamite. Calling the Gentile, the Lord going to destroy this world. He's going to destroy America. Well, if he destroy America, then what's going to happen to you? What's going to happen to all the brothers and sisters that's here if he's going to destroy America? And I'm going to tell you, man, America is the best country on the earth. Despite all of our imperfections in this country, this is still the best country on earth. Can I get an amen? Amen. Try going living over there in Africa and see what happens. And talking like me and you, talking like us. And go over there to Africa and see what they do. They're going to boot you up right up out of there, or they're going to be prejudiced towards you too. Better wake up. Talking about you Africa. Well, anyway. Let's go to Mark 11 chapter, picking up from verse 15. Because look at what Jesus said right here. He's going to make it real plain. 11 and 15. Go ahead and read it.
Mark chapter 11, verse 15. And they come to Jerusalem, and Jesus went into the temple and began to cast out them that sold and bought in the temple, and overthrew the tables of the money changers.
Go ahead.
And the seats of them that sold doves.
See, look at Jesus. He going there wrecking the place, turning over tables and stuff. What did he say? Go ahead.
And would not suffer that any man should carry any vessel through the temple.
Look, he done stopped them from carrying vessels through the temple. Everybody think Jesus was some type of punk or pushover or whatever.
No.
He done stopped them from bringing stuff in the temple now. Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir. 17. And he taught, saying unto them, Is it not written, My house shall be called of all nations the house of prayer?
You see that? My house should be called of all nations the house of prayer. Now, if that's not clear, then I don't know what is. Because this is really clear right here. Read that again.
Yes, sir. 17. And he taught, saying unto them, Is it not written, My house should be called of all nations the house of prayer?
Go ahead.
But ye have made it a den of thieves.
And Israel's still making his house a den of thieves.
Teach.
He said, but my house shall be called of all nations a house of prayer. Well, we can stop right here. But then we gotta, I gotta keep doing, so I can't let y'all out that quick. Verse 18, go ahead and read it.
And the scribes and chief priests heard it, and sought how they might destroy him, for they feared him, because all the people was astonished at his doctrine.
Now, because they don't want other people to come into the nation of Israel. The scribes and the Pharisees and most of the people that did believe on Jesus, they don't want the other people or the other nations to come into Israel. Because the Lord had to show Peter that too. Let's go to Isaiah the 49th chapter, Isaiah 49. The Lord had to show Peter that, look, this is for everybody. This word is for everybody.
Yes, sir.
And then Peter said, the Lord has shown me, I shall not call any man common or unclean. We're going to read that today. We in Isaiah 49 and 1, Isaiah 49 and 1. Go ahead and read it.
Isaiah chapter 49, verse 1. Listen, O isles, unto me, and hearken, ye people, from far. The Lord hath called me from the womb.
Now, who is this right here? He said, the Lord hath called me from the womb. We're going to show you this talking about. Go ahead and read.
The Lord hath called me from the womb. From the bowels of my mother have he made mention of my name. And he hath made my mouth like a sharp sword. In the shadow of his hand hath he hid me.
Go ahead.
And made me a polished shaft. In his quiver hath he hid me. And said unto me, Thou art my servant, O Israel.
See, this talk is singular right here. So this talking about one person. He said, Thou art my servant, O Israel. We got to find out who this is. Go ahead and read.
Thou art my servant, O Israel, in whom I will be glorified.
In whom I will be glorified. He said, Thou art my servant, O Israel. Let's go now. Skip down to verse 5. Skip to verse 5. Go ahead.
And now saith the Lord that formed me from the womb to be his servant, to bring Jacob again to him, though Israel be not gathered.
Now you see who we're going to bring to him first? Jacob. Who is Jacob? That's Israel. The Jew first, then the Gentiles. He said, and now saith the Lord that hath formed me from the womb to be his servant, to bring Jacob again to him.
Though Israel be not gathered, yet shall I be glorious in the eyes of the Lord.
Go ahead.
And my God shall be my strength.
This God right here, God of God. But I'm going to show you who this is, though. Go ahead and read.
Verse 6. And he said, It is a light thing that thou shouldest be my servant to raise up the tribes of Jacob, and to restore the preserved of Israel.
Go ahead.
I will also give thee for a light to the Gentiles.
I will also give, you see, he's going to gather first Israel. Then he said, I will give thee for a light to the Gentiles. Now, like I said earlier, some people will say that these Gentiles right here are talking about Israelites or Jews. But he just told you about Israel right here. He said, it is a light thing that thou should be my servant to raise up the tribes of Jacob. Who are the tribes of Jacob? That's the 12 tribes of Israel, right? He said, I will also give thee for a light to the Gentiles. Go ahead and finish that.
That thou mayest be my salvation unto the end of the earth.
Now, so who are these Gentiles that he's going to be a light to? Let's go now. Let's go to Luke, the 2nd chapter. Let's find out who this is. He said, Thou art my servant, O Israel, in whom I will be glorified. Who are we talking about right here? He said, He had called me from my mama's womb.
Yes, sir.
We at Luke 2, and we're going to pick it up at verse 21. Luke 2 and 21. And we only know one really that was called from his mama's womb that the whole world knows about. We have Luke 2 and 21. Go ahead and read it.
Luke chapter 2, verse 21. And when 8 days were accomplished for the circumcising of the child.
Now this is when Jesus was born right here. So now 8 days was accomplished, you get ready to get circumcised. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. And when 8 days were accomplished for the circumcision of the child, his name was called Jesus.
His name was called Jesus. Go ahead and read.
Which was so named of the angel before he was conceived in the womb.
Ooh. See, God had already given him that name, Jesus. Say he was called that from the womb. Say he was called that from the womb, just like we just read in Isaiah, the 49th chapter. Said that thou hast called me from the womb. Read that verse again. Read that verse again.
21.
Uh-huh.
And when 8 days were accomplished for the circumcision of the child, his name was called Jesus.
Go ahead.
Which was so named the angel before he was conceived in the womb.
So we know now who Isaiah the 49th chapter was talking about. Said, I was called from my mother's womb. But then he called him Israel. Go ahead and read.
And when the days of her purification according to the law of Moses were accomplished, they brought him to Jerusalem to present him to the Lord.
Skip to verse 25. Skip to verse 25. Go ahead.
25.
And
behold, there was a man in Jerusalem whose name was Simeon. And the same man was just and devout, waiting for the consolation of Israel. And the Holy Ghost was upon him.
Go ahead.
And it was revealed unto him by the Holy Ghost that he should not see death before he had seen the Lord's Christ.
Go ahead.
And
now that's really something. So he's not going. The Holy Ghost came upon him, said, revealed unto him that he wasn't going to see death until he see the Lord's Christ.
Hallelujah.
Man, go ahead and read.
27.
And he came by the Spirit into the temple. And when the parents brought in the child, Jesus, to do for him after the custom of the law, then took he him up in his arms and blessed God and said,
Go ahead.
Lord.
Now he took Jesus up in his arms.
Come on.
Go ahead and read.
And said, Lord, now lettest thou thy servant depart in peace, according to thy word.
Now I don't know if I would have said that. I probably would have said, Lord, give me a little bit longer. Because remember, he's not going to taste death until he see the Lord's Christ, right? So he done picked Jesus up and probably was rocking him. And then he took him up in his arms and blessed God and said, Lord, now lettest thou thy servant depart in peace according to thy word. Go ahead and read. Let me get a little bit longer. Go ahead and read.
Verse 30. For mine eyes have seen thy salvation, which thou hast prepared before the face of all people.
Go ahead.
A light to lighten the Gentiles.
Stop right there. Didn't we just read that in Isaiah 49th chapter?
Yes, sir.
He said, he called them old Israel. And he said, I'm going to give thee for a light to the Gentiles. This is who he was talking about, Jesus.
Hallelujah.
He's going to give Jesus as a light to the Gentiles. Verse 32 again.
A light to lighten the Gentiles and the glory of thy people Israel.
And the glory of thy people Israel. Let's go now. So we know who Isaiah was talking about now when he said, I will give thee a light for the Gentiles. He was talking about Jesus, the one that had been formed from the womb. Let's go now. Let's go to Genesis, the 10th chapter. Because we're going to show you real quick who the Gentiles are. Because, that's another thing that they were discussing yesterday. When my brother called me when he was in Baltimore. Who the Gentiles are. They keep saying that Esau is the white man. How can Esau be the white man? I said, well, okay, then tell them this. Then if Esau is the white man, Esau being Jacob's twin brother, then that means the white man is your twin brother then. Then they want to go over there and read. It's going to have two different people, two different nations. But they still came out the same womb, so they still brothers.
That's it, brother. Indeed.
You got Ham. Ham had 4 sons. 4 different nations though. Cush, Ethiopia, right? Mizraim, that's the Egyptians and the Philistines. Then you had Put, which is Libya. And then you had Canaan, which are the Canaanites. And they had Jebusites. They had so many different nations in the Canaanites. My point is this, is that just because you got two people coming from the womb, and he said, I'm going to separate them at the body, it's going to be two different nations, they are still brothers, but they can still be two different nations. What's the big deal about that? But then my problem is that how you get from being a Semitic to being a Gentile? How do you change your pedigree? How do you change your pedigree? How can you go from being a Gentile, or being a Shemite, which came out of Shem, to a Gentile, which came out of, a Shemite, which came out of Shem, and a Gentile, which came out of Japheth? How do you change your pedigree? And these brothers all, well, the man carried the seed. The man, okay then. If the man carried the seed, then you know then Esau is your twin brother, and he could not be a Gentile. You should know that. Especially being an Israelite, you should know this. Let's go to Genesis, the 10th chapter. Let's see who the Gentiles are. Because he said, I'm going to give thee for a light to the Gentiles. Genesis 10. Genesis 10, and we're going to pick it up in verse 1, Genesis 10 and 1. And we read this often. I don't know why the brothers don't be checking this out. Genesis 10 and 1. Go ahead and read.
Genesis chapter 10, verse 1. Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood. The sons of Japheth.
The sons of Japheth,
Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshach, and Tyrus. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz.
Now stop right there, because you see that Ashkenaz, right? They call them Ashkenazi Jews.
Come on.
Okay, so now you might have some Ashkenazi people, but they're not Ashkenazi Jews in the sense that they are flesh and blood Jews.
Come on, make it plain.
Because Ashkenazi, we're going to see that these are Caucasian people or white people.
Yes, sir.
Now, you can't have it both ways. You can't say he's a Ashkenazi Jew, because how can you be an Ashkenazi Jew? You either one or the other. You either Ashkenazi or you a Jew. Because the man carries seed. Whatever your father is, that's what you are. So he said, and the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz,
and Riphath, and Togarmah, and the sons of Javan.
Go ahead.
Elisha, and Tarshish, Kittle, and Deuteronym. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands.
We read this so many times. I don't see how people can get this, man. He said, by these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands.
Everyone after his tongue, after their families, and their nations.
In their tongues and in their nations. These are the Gentiles. The ones that came out of Japheth, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshach, Tyrus, Gomer, Ashkenaz, Riphath, Togarmah, Javan, Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and Deuteronym. These are the Gentiles.
Come on.
Does everybody understand?
Amen.
These are the Gentiles. If you read Ham seed, you don't see Gentile after that. You read Shem seed, you don't see Gentile after that. Because a lot of people want to say, well, if you're not a Jew, then you're a Gentile. I'm like, well, Levi, he wasn't a Jew. He ain't a Gentile neither, so what does that make him? Naphtali, he wasn't a Jew. He wasn't a Gentile neither. So what does that make him? He's just like the Jews. He's Semitic or Shemitic or from Shem. Does everybody understand? He was the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, let's break this Gentile down a little bit. So we're going to Reader's Digest Encyclopedia, and we're going to look up the word Gentile. Everybody just follow along. And Gentile is nothing derogatory or nothing like that. It's just a family of people. And so we're going to set the record straight.
Yeah.
Because if you're not a Jew, you're a Gentile. Man, but go ahead, brother.
The Reader's Digest Great Encyclopedia Dictionary. This is page 557. Gentile. It says, among Jews, one not a Jew,
one not a Jew. See, because this is the definition that most people use right here. If you're not a Jew, you're a Gentile. That's if you don't have no understanding, you would say that. Go ahead and read some more.
Amen. Number 2, among Christians, one not a Jew.
See, among Christians, one that is not a Jew. Go ahead.
Or not a Christian.
He's not a Christian, or he's not a Jew or a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
What is he then?
A heathen or a pagan.
A heathen or a pagan.
That's right.
Now, I'll tell you what. People got their own imaginations, man. They give you their own. We're going to read something about Japhetites right here. Because out of Japhet came the Gentiles, right? Now, what does that say?
Yeah. Funk and Wagnall's New Encyclopedia, volume 14, page 164. Japhetites.
Uh-huh.
A Japhetic people.
A Japhetic people. Go ahead.
In acknowledging loose designation for the Caucasian people of Europe.
Oh, that's who the Gentiles are? The Caucasian people from Europe?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
It says, loose designation for the Caucasian people of Europe and certain parts of Asia.
Because, you know, China, Chinese people, those are Gentiles. Japanese, those Gentiles.
Mm-hmm. Supposed to be descended from Japheth,
Uh-huh.
a son of the Old Testament patriarch, Noah.
Now, so we're going to read some of Japheth's children again, because I want to show you something about one of his sons. So take that pamphlet right there. And just read that right there and turn the page. See what I said right there?
Yeah. Japheth.
Uh-huh. I turn the page. So we're just going to read about one of his sons, because he got a lot of sons. We're just going to read about one. Because this is the one we're going to primarily deal with today. Go ahead.
Javan.
Uh-huh.
Sons were Elisha, Tersha, Kittim, and Deuteronomy.
So now we just read that in the Bible, right? Go ahead. What else is highlighted?
It says Grecian.
Uh-huh.
Greeks.
Oh, so this who came out of Javan? Grecians, the Greeks. Who else came out of Javan? Go ahead.
Macedonians.
The Macedonians came out of, you know, that's Alexander the Great's father. He's Macedonian. Right? Go ahead and read.
Romans.
Romans. Uh-huh.
Italians.
Italians. Same people, really. But go ahead.
Portuguese.
Portuguese. Go ahead.
Other related groups.
Uh-huh. So now you got the Grecians, the Greeks, the Macedonians. We could have read the Carthaginians too, which are Greeks. He said the Romans, the Italians, the Spaniards, right? And the Portuguese. All of these came out of Japhet's son, which are the Gentiles.
That's it.
All of these came out of Japhet's son, Javan. Romans, Macedonians, Italians, Spaniards, Portuguese, Grecians, or Greeks.
Yes, sir.
Keep this in mind. Now we're going to read something else here. No, we ain't going to read that. Let's go now. Let's go to, because I'll just tell you. If you look up the Ephesians, the Galatians, if you look up the Thessalonians, you look up all of these people that Paul taught, you will, besides the Romans, you will see that these are all Greek people. And we know Greek to be Caucasians, right? But just look up Paul's books. The Ephesians, the Greeks, the Corinthians, all of the Thessalonians. Look up his books and you'll see that all of these people are Greeks. And that most people know that the Romans, those are the Italians, those are Caucasian people. All of these are Caucasian people. But look at what the Lord told the children of Israel all the way back here in Deuteronomy 10th chapter, because our brothers have been hate-filled. They are hate-filled. And that's why the rest of us are getting a bad rap. The rest of them, you tell somebody you Israel, oh yeah, okay, you Israelite. They don't want to be bothered with you. Let's go now. Let's go to Deuteronomy, the 10th chapter. Look at what the Lord told the children of Israel. Deuteronomy 10. Deuteronomy 10, and we're going to pick it up at verse 17. Deuteronomy 10 and 17. Go ahead and read it.
Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 17.
Uh-huh.
For the Lord your God is God of gods, and Lord of lords, a great God, and mighty and terrible, which regardeth not persons, nor taketh reward.
Go ahead.
He doth execute judgment of the fatherless and widow, and loveth the stranger.
And do what?
And loveth the stranger.
Now, who is the stranger? That's anybody other than the children of Israel. He said the Lord loveth the stranger. You know why the Lord loves the stranger? Because he made him on this earth too.
Make that plain, brother.
He made him on this earth too. Go ahead and read.
And giveth him food and raiment.
Now, who feeding the stranger? God is. Just like he feeding Israel, he feeding the stranger too. He feeding the birds and the bees and the fish. You understand?
Come on.
He's feeding the Gentile and the stranger too. Go ahead and read.
Love ye therefore the stranger.
Now look at what he's telling the children of Israel. Love ye therefore the stranger.
For ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. Thou shalt fear the Lord thy God. Him shalt thou serve. And to him shalt thou cleave and swear by his name.
See, so he's telling the children of Israel, love the stranger. If the stranger not kicking, see, you're supposed to be teaching the stranger. If he start kicking, then that's another thing. And I'm not telling you to hate him then neither. I'm just saying, you know what? Shake the dust off your feet. Keep on walking. Right? But the main thing, though, the Lord telling the children of Israel is to love the stranger. You know, look, we know that what's going on in this country and all over the world concerning the children of Israel. But God is the one that's doing this to us. He's just using the Gentile, the Hamite, and the other Shemites to do it.
Yes, sir.
Because of our disobedience. But he said, love ye therefore the stranger, because you were the stranger in Egypt. Let's go now. Let's go to Exodus 12 chapter. And look who came out of Egypt with the children of Israel. Exodus 12, and we're going to pick it up at verse 35. Exodus 12 and 35. Exodus 12 and 35. I even got my Israelite brother saying, well, see, these mixed multitude, these was Israelites. I'm like, well, why would he call them mixed multitude then if they were Israelites? He was just saying all of Israel came out of Egypt. He would have said nothing about no mixed multitude.
Make it plain.
We're at Exodus 12 and 35. Exodus 12 and 35. Go ahead and read.
Exodus chapter 12, verse 35. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses. And they borrowed of the Egyptian jewels of silver and jewels of gold and
Because
red.
when they came up out of Egypt, boy, they were rich. The Lord know how to deliver. I'm not going to let y'all leave up out of here poor. Y'all going to have some money when y'all leave. And the Egyptians were happy to give it to them, too.
Sure enough.
Get them out of here, else we be all dead men.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Here, man, take this gold. Get out of here. Go ahead and read.
Yeah. Verse 36. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things as they required.
Go ahead.
And they spoiled the Egyptians.
And they spoiled the Egyptians. Go ahead.
And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramesses to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot that were men, beside children.
Now look, he said, look, it was 600,000 men beside children. These are Israelites right here. Who else went with them? Go ahead.
And a mixed multitude went up also with them.
I guess they did. They see how the Lord tore down Egypt for the Israelites. Man, we want to go with y'all.
Sure.
So he said a mixed multitude went up also with them.
And flocks and herds and even very much cattle.
See, so you got a mixed multitude that went up out of Egypt with the children of Israel.
Yes, sir.
These are people of other nations. People of other nations. Let's go now. Let's go to Acts, the 10th chapter, Acts 10. Because this is what the Lord was showing Peter. This is what he was showing Peter. Peter looking around, Lord, what do you mean by this? I have never eaten anything common or unclean. But the Lord wasn't showing him about food, to eat the food. He was showing him about different nations. How that the children of Israel were supposed to teach different nations. But we're mainly dealing with the Gentile today. We're at Acts 10 and 1. Acts 10 and 1. Everybody got it? Go ahead and read it.
Yeah. Acts chapter 10, verse 1. There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band.
So now, he was Italian, so he goes back to who then? Javon, which goes back to who? Japhat, or the Gentiles.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He said Cornelius was of the Italian band. Go ahead and read.
A devout man, and one that feared God with all his house.
See, he said one that feared God, so now he's fearing the God of Israel.
Yes, sir.
Does everybody understand? Because the book says he's going to give thee a light to the Gentile. And so here's a Gentile right here that feared God.
Hallelujah.
An Italian that feared God. Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir. Which gave much alms to the people and prayed to God always. He saw in a vision evidently about the 9th hour of the day an angel of God coming in to him and saying unto him, Cornelius. And when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, What is it, Lord? And he said unto him, Thy prayers and thine alms are come up for memorial before God. And now send men to Joppa and call for one Simon, whose surname is Peter.
So now go look for the Israelite. That's what I want you to go. Go send for this one Peter, Simon. Surname is Peter, rather.
Yes, sir.
He said, look, this how it goes. This is the protocol right here. God gave it to the Israelite, and the Israelite give it to man, to the rest of the nation.
That's it, brother.
That's the protocol. Go ahead and read.
Excuse me. Verse 6. He lodged with one Simon a tanner, whose house is by the seaside.
Go ahead.
He shall tell thee what thou ought to do.
See, because that's what you need, an Israelite to tell you what you ought to do. Skip to verse 9. Skip to verse 9. Go ahead and read.
On the morrow, as they went on their journey and drew nigh unto the city, Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. And he became very hungry, and would have eaten. But while they made ready, he fell into a trance, and saw heaven open, and a certain vessel descended unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the four corners and let down to the earth, wherein were all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air.
So now he let this sheet down 3 times, right? And it was all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. So I know he had to be looking at what's going on. What is the Lord trying to show me in this vision? Go ahead and read.
Verse 13. And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, kill and eat.
Now, when he said, Rise, Peter, kill and eat, the first thing you won't think about is food, right? The Lord want me to eat all these beasts of the field and wild and creeping things. He want me to, and these fowls of the air. The first thing he won't think is food. Go ahead and read.
14. But Peter said, Not so, Lord.
He said, because Peter think he talking about eating food, right? So he said, Not so, Lord. Go ahead.
For I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean.
I have never eaten anything common. You see that? Never eaten anything common or unclean. Never. Go ahead and read.
And the voice spake unto him again the second time. What God hath cleansed, that call not thou common.
Now, if you stop right here, then you're not going going to get the real meaning of this. Because this is what some people want to do. They stop right here. And see, they want to prove their point. See, what God has cleansed, call not thou common. Which means that, look, I can eat anything I want to eat. Because God cleansed it right here.
Whoa.
That's if you stop right here.
That's right, brother. Teach.
So we're not going to stop right here. We're going to keep on reading. Go ahead and read verse 16.
Yes, sir. 16.
Uh-huh.
This was done thrice, and the vessel was received up again into heaven.
Skip down to verse 21.
21.
Uh-huh.
Then Peter went down to the men which were sent unto him from Cornelius, and said, Behold, I am he whom ye seek. What is the cause wherefore ye are come?
Go ahead. You know how Israelites are. Yeah, man, I'm here. What's up? What you want?
Yeah.
What y'all want? Verse 22, go ahead.
And they said, Cornelius the centurion, a just man.
Now Cornelius the centurion, a just man. Now remember, he's an Italian guy. Say he's a just man, though. Go ahead.
And one that feared God, and of good report among all the nations of the Jews, was warned from God by an holy angel to send for thee into his house, and to hear words of thee.
Now he said he wants you to hear words of thee, because this is how it goes. You got to hear this word from the children of Israel.
Protocol.
Let's go. Skip down to verse 25. Skip to verse 25. Now the Lord going to reveal to Peter what this dream was all about, this vision that he saw. Of all manner of creeping things and four-footed beasts and fowls of the air. We're going to break it down to what was this about. Go ahead and read. Verse 25. Go ahead.
Verse 25. And as Peter was coming in, Cornelius met him and fell down at his feet and worshipped him.
Now look, you're worshiping a man. But what did Peter say? Go ahead.
But Peter took him up, saying, Stand up.
Go ahead.
I myself also am a man.
That's what the angel told John when he came, fell down before him. He was like, look, stand up. I'm of your fellow brethren.
That's right.
Go ahead and read.
27.
And
as he talked with him, he went in and found many that were come together. And he said unto them, Ye know how that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come into one of another nation.
Stop right there. Now look, if this is an Israelite, if he was talking to an Israelite right here, why would he say one of another nation? Because all the Israelites and the Jews, they are the same nation. So why would he say one of another nation?
Come on.
Go ahead and read.
But God hath showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean.
Ooh. Now he really broke it down. He said, but God has shown me that I should not call any man common or unclean. Not any Israelite or any Jew common or unclean, but any man common or unclean. And that's what he meant by these four-footed beasts and all manner of beasts and flying, creeping things and fowls of the air. That's what he's showing him. Different nations. These beasts and these fowls and creeping things represented different nations. Does everybody understand? Because Peter understood, and they said, God has shown me that I should not call any man common or unclean, not any food or any beast or fowls or creeping thing.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and read.
Verse 29.
I'm sorry, skip to verse 34. Skip to verse 34. Now Peter gonna really break it down. Go ahead and read. Verse 34. Go ahead.
34. Then Peter opened his mouth and said, Of a truth I perceive that God is no respecter of persons.
God is no respecter of person. He don't choose one man over the other. But I want you to know something though. The Jew first, then the Gentile, then the stranger. Go ahead and read.
But in every nation, he that feareth him.
Read that again.
Yes, sir. But in every nation, he that feareth him.
Go ahead.
And work of righteousness is accepted with him.
Now, is that plain?
Yes, sir.
We can stop the lesson right here. This is plain scripture. But in every nation, he that feareth him and worketh righteousness is accepted with him. Mine house should be called a house of prayer for all people.
Amen.
That's our motto.
Amen.
Verse 36. Go ahead and read it.
The word which God sent unto the children of Israel.
Stop right there. You see who God sent his word to? The children of Israel. Doing what?
Preaching peace by Jesus Christ. He is Lord of all.
Ooh. So he's the Lord over the Gentile, the stranger. If they want to serve him, Lord over them too.
Make it plain.
Let's go now. Let's go to, man, I had to get my glasses checked again. Let's go to John, the 3rd chapter. John, the 3rd chapter, and my Roman brother, he read this to him. That didn't faze him at all, though. This didn't faze him at all. And this is most people, this is their favorite scripture. John 3:16. John 3:16. This didn't faze them Israelites at all right here.
No.
John 3:16. Go ahead and read it.
Yes, sir. This is John chapter 3, verse 16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believed in him.
Now, who is whosoever? That's anybody. That's anybody. He didn't say, whatsoever Jew that believeth in him. He said that whosoever believeth in him,
should not perish, but have everlasting life.
Now, you know, so that tells me right there that if you believe on Christ and do his will, then you can get eternal life.
That's
no
right.
matter who you are.
That's right. Yes, sir.
Come on, man, we got to come up off of that thing, because that's what the problem, one of the problems was in Israel of old. And more particularly under in the 1st century with the scribes and Pharisees. They didn't want nobody else of another nation to be part of Israel. Just like now.
Yes, sir.
They don't want nobody else of another nation to be a part of the Commonwealth of Israel. As though God is going to save just the children of Israel and then throw everybody else in the fire. You better watch out. Because there might going to be some Israelites in that fire too.
Make that plain. Yes, sir.
Let's go now. Let's go to Galatians, the 2nd chapter. Galatians 2. Galatians, the 2nd chapter. And we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Galatians 2 and 1. Now look at what Paul is doing right here. Galatians 2, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Go ahead and read.
Galatians chapter 2, verse 1. Then 14 years after I went up again to Jerusalem with Barnabas, and took Titus with me also.
Now wait a minute now. So he said, now this is Paul saying this, and you know, because the Lord has sent Paul and Barnabas, which we're going to read that, to the Gentiles, and then sent Peter to the Jews. So he said, look, he took Titus with him though. Titus is a Gentile. He's going to tell you. Go ahead and read.
And I went up by revelation and communicated unto them that gospel which I preach among the Gentiles. But privately to them which were of reputation, lest by any means I should run or had run in vain.
So he said he preaching this gospel among the Gentiles. Let's find out these ones that he was preaching, these Gentiles he preaching this gospel to, were these Jews that were called, because you know, you got some Jews that lived among the Gentiles. Just like now, you got Jews, now we're Jews, and we live among the Gentiles. And we have taken on a lot of their customs. The thing that separates us is our laws are diverse from all mankind. Our laws are diverse from all mankind. Go ahead and read.
Verse 3. But neither Titus, who was with me, being a Greek.
Being a what?
A Greek.
Oh, Titus was a Greek. You see that? But neither Titus, who was with me, being a Greek,
was compelled to be circumcised.
See, you know, just like everybody else, you a grown man, you're like, man, I ain't getting circumcised. You think that in your mind, you know, for a while, but then when you find out you got to be circumcised, then your tune changed then. You changed that tune. So here it is, this Greek right here, he's like, I'm not getting circumcised. So, but later on he got circumcised. We're going to see later on that even Timothy got circumcised. He said, so, but neither Titus, who was with me, being a Greek, was compelled to be circumcised. Now, skip to verse, no, keep reading. We're going to keep on reading through this. Go ahead and read.
Verse 4.
Uh-huh.
And that because of false brethren.
Now, here we go now. False brethren. False brethren. False Israelites. Go ahead and read.
And that because of false brethren unawares brought in, who came in privily to spy out our liberty, which we have in Christ Jesus, in Christ Jesus, that they might bring us into bondage, to whom we gave place by subjection, no, not for an hour, that the truth of the gospel might continue with you. But of these, who seem to be somewhat whatsoever they were, it maketh no matter to me.
Now, he talking about those Jews that they came, these ones that, he said, these Jews that, false brethren, unawares brought in, who came in private to spy out our liberty. He's like, you know what, I don't care about them. Okay, who's this? This for me? Yeah. All right. Might use the washroom in a minute. But I thank you, though. I guess it's better to have some than not have some. I'll tell you what, start back at verse 4 again. You threw me off. Verse 4. Go ahead.
Oh, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. All right, 4. Y'all gotta hold on, wait. All right, here we go. And that because of false brethren unawares brought in, who came in privily to spy out our liberty, which we have in Christ Jesus,
go ahead,
that they might bring us into bondage.
See, you know, it goes some brothers unawares. You understand? They don't have no understanding. So they come to spy out Paul and Paul and them and the brethren. You know what these cats up to? You know how Israel is. Always in somebody's business.
Come on.
You know, you preaching the word, he comes from another Israelite. Oh no, you know, got something to say. so he come, these Jews right here, these brothers right here, come to talk about Paul and them. But Paul's like, I don't care who these cats are. Verse 5, go ahead and read it again.
To whom we gave place by subjection.
Go ahead.
No, not for an hour, that the truth of the gospel might continue with you.
Go ahead.
But of these whom seem to be somewhat whatsoever they were.
He said, whatsoever they were. I don't know what's up with these guys.
Yeah.
You understand? Go ahead and read.
Whatsoever they were, it make them no matter to me.
He said, it don't make no matter to me, but I'm gonna preach this gospel.
Amen.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and read.
God accepted no man's persons. For they who seem to be somewhat in conference added nothing to me.
He said they so confident, but they didn't add nothing. You know how brothers come to start preaching that Roman Christianity and sound so confident. But he's like, man, you didn't teach me nothing. You're not showing me nothing. I tell brothers that all the time. You need what I got. I don't need what you got.
Amen.
That Roman Christianity you got, that come a dime a dozen.
Amen.
In fact, if I put 5 of y'all together, each one of y'all got a different story.
Amen.
You need what I got. I don't need what you got. Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir.
What verse you at?
7.
Uh-huh.
But contrariwise, when they saw that the gospel of the uncircumcision was committed unto me, as the gospel of the uncircumcision was unto Peter,
go ahead.
For he that wrought effectually in Peter to the apostleship of the circumcision.
So now he said that the gospel of the uncircumcision was given to Paul for the Gentiles, right? And then the gospel of the circumcision was unto Peter. So Peter went to the Israelites, Paul went to the Gentiles. Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir. For he that wrought effectually in Peter to the apostleship of the circumcision, the same was mighty in me towards the Gentiles.
The same was mighty in me towards the Gentiles. So now we talking about Gentiles, Jews which are called Gentiles, or we talking about actual Gentiles from Japhet? We're going to find out. Because I'm going to read you a scripture. It's going to be over with. That argument is over. Go ahead and read. Verse 9. Mm-hmm.
And when James, Cephas, and John, who seemed to be pillars, perceived the grace that was given unto me, that they gave to me and Barnabas the right hands of fellowship, that we should go unto the heathen, and they unto the circumcision.
They said we should go unto the heathen, to the nations, and they should go to the circumcision. Verse, let's see, you finished with verse 9, right? Yes. All right, let's go now. Let's go to Ephesians, the 3rd chapter. Because this was a big mystery among the children of Israel. This was a big mystery that the Gentiles had to come into the fold. Ephesians, the 3rd chapter, Ephesians 3. This is a big mystery. Ephesians 3, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Ephesians 3 and 1. A lot of the Israelites didn't understand this. And a lot of Israelites don't understand this today.
That's right.
That's why they're telling people, this is not for you. Esau is the white man.
Whoa.
All type of crazy stuff they say. Because this thing is a mystery to them. Let's find out what this mystery is. Ephesians 3 and 1. Ephesians 3 and 1. Go ahead and read it.
Ephesians chapter 3, verse 1. For this cause I, Paul, the prisoner of Jesus Christ, for you Gentiles.
He said, I'm a prisoner of Jesus Christ. For you Gentiles. That is really something. Paul know how to break it down sometime, right?
Yes, sir.
He said, I'm a prisoner of Christ for you Gentiles. Go ahead and read.
If ye have heard of the dispensation of the grace of God, which is given me to you, how that by revelation he made known unto me the mystery, as I wrote afore in few words.
So he said, the Lord made known unto me this mystery. Go ahead and read.
Whereby, when ye read, ye may understand my knowledge in the mystery of Christ.
Now he said, when you read,
yes, sir.
Not just go off talking, but when you read,
teach.
You may, he said, but whereby when you read, you may understand my knowledge in the mystery of Christ. Go ahead and read.
Which in other ages was not made known to the sons of men.
Go ahead.
As it is now revealed unto his holy apostles and prophets by the Spirit.
So Paul he went over there and read what was written in Isaiah the 49th chapter, that the Lord was going to be a light to the Gentiles. You know that one that was called from his mother's womb? It said, hear, O Israel. Said this one was going to be a light to the Gentiles. But go ahead and read.
That the Gentiles should be fellow heirs.
See that? That the Gentiles should be fellow heirs. Does everybody understand what heirs mean? That means you inherit something just like I did. I've inherited already. Now it's your time to inherit.
That's right, brother. Keep it simple.
Read that one more time.
Yeah, man. That the Gentiles should be fellow heirs and of the same body.
Stop right there. And of the same body. What is the body? The church.
Indeed.
That's what the body is in church. That the Gentiles should be fellow heirs. Fellow heirs. If you're a fellow heir, then that means somebody was an heir before you. Then you came into being an heir. Or somebody else's inheritance.
Point that out, brother.
Fellow heir of the same body,
and partakers of his promise in Christ.
Go ahead.
By the gospel, whereof I was made a minister, according to the gift of the grace of God given unto me, by the effectual working of his power, unto me, whom am less than the least of all saints, is this grace given, that I should preach among the Gentiles the unsearchable riches of Christ.
Now, so this was the mystery, that the Gentiles should be fellow heirs. And like I said, it's still a mystery among the brethren. It's still a mystery. Let's go now. Let's go to Acts the 21st chapter. Acts the 21st chapter. This thing is a big mystery amongst our brothers, man. You know, the Gentiles not going to get salvation. And then they think Gentiles mean everybody else. They got so bad. Esau is the white man. They got it so backwards, man. It is really something. And it just so happens that that brother was out there in Baltimore standing next to some of these brothers. I couldn't believe it, man. And here I am getting ready to do the lesson on this, and they standing there talking about it. I tell you, boy, the Lord works in mysterious ways. Acts, the 21st chapter. Acts, the 21st chapter, and we're going to pick it up in verse 18. Acts 21 and 18. Now look at what happened. Because I understand that, like I said earlier, that there were Jews living among Gentiles. There were Jews in Asia Minor, in Antioch, Persia, Pamphylia. I mean, the Bible tells you this. And so some of these Jews that didn't take on the faith, they were Hellenistic Jews, meaning that they took on the culture of the country they were staying in, or the city that they stayed in. And at this time, they were staying in Greek cities. So they took on the culture of the Greeks.
That's right.
They said, we're not going to do Israel, we're going to do Greek.
Come on.
You understand?
Come on.
And so that's what they call Hellenistic Jews. And you do have some of them. But Paul and Peter started off teaching who? Gentiles, the one that came from Japhet, not the ones that came from Israel or Shem. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? I don't want to confuse nobody. But this will clear it up for you. We had Acts 21 and 18. Acts 21 and 18. Go ahead and read it.
This is Acts 21, verse 18.
Uh-huh.
And the day following, Paul went in with us unto James, and all the elders were present.
Go ahead.
And when he had saluted them, he declared particularly what things God had wrought among the Gentiles by his ministry. And when they heard it, they glorified the Lord, and said unto him, Thou seest, brother, how many thousands of Jews there are which believe.
Now these Jews, these Jews that are among the Gentiles, they believe. Just like us. We are Jews among the Gentiles that believe. Does everybody understand? Amen. Go ahead and read.
And they are all zealous of the law.
And we, like now, are zealous of the law. We tell somebody, hey man, you got to keep the law. We tell them that in a minute.
Hallelujah.
But you know what they do? They turn away from you and walk off. I don't care if you Jew, Gentile, Hamite, you tell them you got to keep the law, boy. You can talk to them for a minute, boy. When you start talking law, that's it. They gone. So he said they are zealous of the, wait a minute, they zealous of the law. Well, after Jesus died, they still zealous of the law? I thought the law was done away with.
No.
These Jews right here zealous of the law. Go ahead and read.
21.
Uh-huh.
And they are informed of thee, that thou teachest all the Jews which are among the Gentiles.
Stop right there. So he said, and they are informed of thee, that thou teachest all the Jews which are among the Gentiles. They don't have no problem with that. You had Jews among Gentiles. And some of these Jews was called Hellenistic Jews. And I'm going to show you. Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir.
Start that again.
Yes, sir. And they are informed of thee, that thou teachest all the Jews which are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses, saying that they ought not to circumcise their children, neither to walk after the customs.
See, so you know, somebody or other, they say that Paul telling them that they don't have to be circumcised, neither have to after Moses, nor walk after the customs. Because you know, you had some Jews that was walking after the customs, but then you had some that didn't. Let me show you. Let's go. We're going to look up this word right here. We're going to look up the word Hellenist. And so for that, we're going to Reader's Digest, Encyclopedia, Dictionary. Hellenist.
This is Reader's Digest, Great Encyclopedia Dictionary. Hellenist, page 622. Excuse me. Small writings.
Okay. No, I got you, brother. It says, an adopter of Greek language.
See, an adopter of Greek language, go ahead.
Ideals, etc.
Ideals, etc. So in other words, because you know other definitions tell you people that have adopted the Greek culture. So when you adopt the Greek culture, you adopt everything, the language, the art, you name it. Because you know, back during the times of Alexander, because Alexander the Greek, he's the one who really kicked things off when it comes to the Greeks. Alexander the Great, around 400 and something BC, that's when he started conquering it. He started at like 17. So he conquered all of these countries, right? At 17 years old, up until the time he was 32 when he died. So by that time he had conquered most of the known world, including the Israelites or Israel. So now, if I'm conquering you, then you're taking on my culture. Do you see us taking on the Indian culture here?
Right.
Who was here first? The Indians, right? But then here come the Gentiles, took over the land, right? And now whose custom are we taking on?
Gentiles.
The Gentiles. Otherwise, we all be walking around sleeping in teepees and all that stuff. Which I ain't trying to talk about nobody. Y'all excuse me.
Come on, brother.
You finished with that?
No.
Go ahead.
Yeah, man, I'm starting from the top.
But y'all know what I mean, though, right? I ain't trying to talk about nobody.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The Hellenist, an adopter of Greek language, ideals, etc., especially a Jew of the diaspora.
Especially a Jew of the diaspora. Because, you know, first, who had the Jews in, the Gentiles that had the Jews in slavery first? It was Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonians, right? Who took over after Nebuchadnezzar? It was the Medes and the Persians, right? Then who took on, I mean, we're talking all Gentiles right here, right? And then who took over then? It was the Greeks. Then finally the Romans.
Yes, sir.
And I'm tell you something, all of them had Israel as slaves.
Tell it. Yep.
All of them had Israel as slaves. So now, this is the Greeks' turn right now. So now, once the Greeks got them in slavery, and look, even when the Greeks were in power, once they lost their power, the Romans took over the power of ruling the known world. They even took on a lot of the Greek customs. The Romans did. I'm telling you, boy, them Greeks was something else. People don't like to give them they do, but Alexander the Great was something else. He took over the known world. Do you know he was the first Gentile called a Pharaoh in Egypt? Alexander the Great was. But he's the one who started this era of Hellenism, of people of other countries taking on the Greek culture, even in Israel. Now, we're gonna look up Hellenism because it said the ones that took on that were in the Jewish diaspora, they're the ones who took on the Hellenism right among the Jews. So yeah, turn that page. Is everybody following along so far?
Yeah.
All right. Hellenism. Go ahead.
Hellenism, to speak Greek or to make Greek.
Or to speak Greek or to make Greek. You know, you're taking on their customs and everything. Go ahead and read.
It says word used to express the assimilation, especially by the Jews, of Greek speech, manners, and culture.
Greek speech, manners, and culture. See, because Paul spoke Greek. Because remember the guard came up to him saying, man, he said, can I speak to you a minute? He said, can I speak Greek? Aren't you not that Egyptian that led out 4,000 men, which were Egyptian bandits? Paul said, no, I am a Jew of Tarsus. But Paul was speaking Latin, and he was speaking Hebrew, and he was speaking Greek. Because this is what the Lord sent them to. Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It says, of Greek speech, manners, and culture from the 4th century BC
Go ahead.
through the first centuries of the Common Era.
See, because 4th century BC, Alexander the Great, he's the one who really kicked this thing off with the Greeks. I'm telling you, boy, these Greeks, man, they flourished. Go ahead and read.
Post-exilic Judaism was largely recruited from those returned exiles who regarded it as their chief task to preserve their religion uncontaminated, a task that required the strict separation of the congregation both from all foreign people.
So basically what he's saying is that you had some Israelites or Jews that remained keeping their culture. Like Peter and Paul and them, they kept the Israelite culture. But then you had some Jews that took on the Greek culture. And these were called what? Hellenist Jews.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir. It says, a task that required the strict separation of the congregation both from all foreign people and from the Jewish inhabitants of Palestine who did not strictly observe the law.
Oh, so these Jews right here didn't strictly observe the law. Now let me just give you an example of what we're talking about right here according to the Bible. Let me give you an example. Let's go now. Let's go to Acts the 14th chapter. Acts 14. And we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Acts 14 and 1. Because we're going to find out these Gentiles, what the Gentiles that Peter and Paul and them was teaching, were these Jews called Gentiles? Or were these actual Gentiles, which came out of Japhet? We at Acts 14 and 1. Acts 14 and 1. Go ahead and read it.
Yay. This is Acts chapter 14, verse 1. And it came to pass in Iconium.
Now that's a Greek city right there. Iconium.
That they went both together into the synagogue of the Jews. And so spake that a great multitude, both of the Jews and also of the Greeks, believed.
So now he said, wait a minute. Now he said, and it came to pass in Iconium that they went both together in the synagogue of the Jews. And so spake that a great multitude, both of Jews and also of Greeks, believed. So now you got some Greeks here believe along with some Jews. Go ahead and read. What verse 2 say?
But the unbelieving Jews stirred up the Gentiles.
It's always Israel. Always starting some stuff. So he said, look, but the unbelieving Jews, so now these unbelieving Jews, and they lived in these Greek cities, what were they considered then? Hellenistic Jews. Because they took on the Greek culture instead of the Israelite culture. Read that verse 2 again.
But the unbelieving Jews stirred up the Gentiles and made their minds evil affected against the brethren.
Go ahead.
Long time therefore abode they, speaking boldly in the Lord, which gave testimony unto the word of his grace, and granted signs and wonders to be done by their hands. But the multitude of the city was divided, and part held with the Jews, and part with the apostles.
Go ahead.
And when they was as assault, and when there was an assault made both of the Gentiles and also of the Jews with their rulers, to use them despitefully and to stone them.
See, so now you got these Jews that stirred up these Gentiles, and now they turn around the Jews and the Gentiles together, stoning Paul here. Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir. Verse 6. They were aware of it and fled with Lystra and Derbe.
Now these are Greek cities. They were aware of it and fled unto Lystra and Derbe, cities of Lycaonia.
Cities of Lycaonia unto the region that lieth round about.
See, these are Greek cities that we're dealing with right here. Skip down to verse 8. Skip to verse 8. Go ahead.
And there sat a certain man at Lystra.
I'm sorry, read verse 7. Start. Just go ahead. We're going to read through this. Go ahead. Verse 7.
Okay. And there they preached the gospel.
They still preaching the gospel. Although they got stoned, they got ran out of town, they still preaching the gospel. Go ahead and read.
And there a certain man at Lystra, impotent in his feet, being a cripple from his mother's womb, who never had walked.
Go ahead.
The same heard Paul speak, who steadfastly beholding him, and perceived that he had faith to be healed,
Go ahead.
said with a loud voice, stand upright on thy feet. And he leaped and walked. And when the people saw what Paul had done, they lifted up their voices, saying in the speech of Lycaonia, the gods are come down to us in the likeness of men.
Now look, so now these people right here have taken on the Greek culture. Because look at what they have said. He said, first they said, and when the people saw that Paul had done, they lifted up their voices saying in the speech of the Lycaonia, which is Greek, right? The gods are come down to us in the likeness of men. Look at what they call Paul and Barnabas. Go ahead and read.
And they called Barnabas Jupiter and Paul Mercurius because he was the chief speaker.
Now these are Greek names right here. So look, they done gave them names right. They ain't call them Paul and Barnabas. They call them Jupiter and Paul Mercurius. Because these are Greek names that they gave them. Why? Because they were in Greek cities. And some of these Jews didn't believe, which were Hellenistic Jews. And so these Jews, along with the Greeks right here, started calling Paul, after Paul had healed somebody, started calling Barnabas Jupiter and Paul Mercurius. But they in Greek cities. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and read.
13. Then the priest of Jupiter, which was before their city.
Now he said a priest of Jupiter. That's Greek. Go ahead.
Which was before their city, brought oxen and garlands unto the gates, and would have done sacrifice with the people. Which when the apostles Barnabas and Paul heard of,
Go ahead.
they rent their clothes and ran in among the people crying out.
Now look, they get ready to sacrifice animals to Barnabas and Paul. And Paul and Barnabas ripped off their clothes. Man, what y'all doing? Because see, that's a Greek custom that they get ready to do, not no Israelite custom.
Make it plain.
Go ahead and read.
And saying, sirs, why do ye these things? We also are men of like passions with you.
Isn't that what Peter told Cornelius when Cornelius bowed down and started worshiping him? I'm a man just like you are. And this is Paul was telling these brothers, these people right here, these Greeks right here, and Jews, and saying, sirs, why do ye these things? We also are men of like passions with you. We're men just like you are. Y'all sacrificing animals to us. They done ripped off their clothes. Man, what y'all do? Y'all gonna get us in trouble with God. Go ahead and read.
And preach unto you that ye should turn from these vanities unto the living God.
Go ahead.
Which made heaven and earth and the sea and all things therein are therein. Who in times past suffered all nations to walk in their own ways.
See, he let all nations walk in their own ways. Skip to verse 19. Go ahead.
And there came thither certain Jews from Antioch.
Here goes some more Jews from Antioch. Because this is a Greek city right here. And so you had Jews living among Greeks. So he said, and there came thither certain Jews from Antioch. Finish that.
And Iconium.
Another Greek city.
Who persuaded the people, and having stoned Paul.
Now look at that. So these Jews right here must have been Hellenistic Jews. They took on the Greek culture. So they persuaded people to stone Paul. Boy, I tell you, boy, Israel is something else. Get them. Golly. Now, these are your brothers. Now, you going to tell them to stone them. Man, go ahead and finish that, brother.
Yes, sir.
Read that verse 19 again.
And there came thither certain Jews from Antioch and Iconium, who persuaded the people, and having stoned Paul, drew him out of the city, supposing he had been dead.
Because Paul got stoned like 3 times, man, and they left him for dead. He got up, brushed himself off, licked his wounds, and kept on preaching. Let's go now. Let's go to Romans, the 9th chapter. So everybody understand now the concept of Hellenism and Hellenist Jews. And those are Jews that have taken on the Greek culture. And then you had some Jews, just like now. You got brothers now who have taken on, and we ourselves have taken on some of the American culture, but we still are Israelites and have taken on the Israelite culture. But then our other brothers are strictly American culture or Gentile culture. Does anybody understand what I'm saying?
Amen.
I ain't gonna say that Indian thing no more. Let's go now.
Amen.
Let's go to Romans the 9th chapter, Romans 9. Romans 9. We still got to find out were these Jews that Paul was teaching Gentiles, or were these Gentiles that Paul was teaching Jews, or were they actual Gentiles? We have Romans 9 and 6. Romans 9 and 6. Go ahead and read it.
Romans chapter 9, verse 6.
Uh-huh.
Not as though the word of God have taken none effect.
Uh-huh.
For they are not all Israel which are of Israel.
Oh, so they are not all of Israel which are of Israel. You understand? Just because you're an Israelite, you might be an Israelite here, but you need to be an Israelite here.
Amen.
Make that plain, brother.
You understand? So all Israel is not Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and we just saw some of them. The unbelieving Jews, right?
Yes, sir.
So they were Israelite here, but they weren't Israelites here. They had taken on the Greek custom. I don't have no problem with that. Let's go now. Let's go to John the 19th chapter, John 19. Because look at what Pilate did at this time when Jesus died. Look at what Pilate did. John 19, look what he wrote the death of Jesus in. He wrote Jesus' name in after Jesus died. John 19, and we'll pick up at verse 17. John 19 and 17. When you get it, go ahead and read it.
John chapter 19, verse 17.
Uh-huh.
And he, bearing his cross, went forth into a place called the place of skull,
Uh-huh.
which is called in the Hebrew Golgotha,
Uh-huh.
where they crucified him and two others with him on either side, and Jesus in the midst.
Go ahead.
And Pilate wrote a title and put it on the cross,
Uh-huh.
and the writing was Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews.
So he wrote it on his cross, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. Go ahead and read.
This title then read many of the Jews,
Uh-huh.
for the place where Jesus was crucified was nigh to the city.
Uh-huh.
And it was written in Hebrew.
It was written, wait a minute, it was written in Hebrew because the Jews, that's what they spoke, right? Hebrew. What else was it written in?
And Greek.
It was Greek. Why was it written in Greek? Because the Jews were amongst the Greeks. Go ahead and read.
And Latin.
And in Latin. Who speak Latin? The Romans. So he wrote it in all three languages because this was the Jews were among these people. Does everybody understand? They spoke Hebrew, they were among the Greeks, and they were among the Romans, which speak Latin. Now, let's go to 2 Samuel, the 5th chapter. 2 Samuel, the 5th chapter. Now, I want to show you something here. Because we get ready to get down to the nitty-gritty, as we call it now. We get down to the nitty-gritty. 2 Samuel, a lot of you young people, y'all know what that means. We get down to the meat of it now. So we at 2 Samuel 5 and 1. 2 Samuel 5 and 1. Go ahead and read.
Yes, 2 Samuel chapter 5, verse 1.
Uh-huh.
Then came all the tribes of Israel to David and to Hebron,
Uh-huh.
and spake, saying, Behold, we are thy bone and thy flesh.
Now look, these were Israelites. He said, and then came all the tribes of Israel to David unto Hebron, and spake, saying, Behold, we are thy bone and thy flesh, which means what? We brothers.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Right? Because like the Bible said in other scriptures, bone of your bone and flesh of your flesh. So they said, look, all the tribes came to David and said, we are thy bone and of thy flesh. We are brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's go to Romans the 9th chapter. Romans 9. I came here for a reason. Just calm down. Romans the 9th chapter. Romans 9, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. You know, a lot of people say Paul was a Gentile. I'm like, what book are y'all reading? Romans 9 and 1. Romans 9 and 1. Go ahead and read it.
Romans chapter 9, verse 1.
Uh-huh.
I say the truth in Christ.
Uh-huh.
I lie not. My conscience also bearing me witness in the Holy Ghost,
Go ahead.
that I have great heaviness and continual sorrow in my heart. For I could wish that myself were accursed from Christ,
Uh-huh.
for my brethren,
For my brethren, uh-huh.
my kinsmen according to the flesh.
My kinsmen according to what?
The flesh.
So we're dealing with Israelites, right?
Show enough.
He's going to tell you in the next verse. What does it say?
Who are Israelites,
Uh-huh.
to whom pertaineth the adoption
Go ahead.
and the glory
Uh-huh.
and the covenant and the giving of the law
Uh-huh.
and the service of God
Go ahead.
and the promise.
Now you see that? He gave Israel everything.
No.
Right? But he gave this to give it to the other nations. This is why he gave it to Israel. Not only for Israel to teach Israel, but for Israel to teach other nations.
Yes, sir.
But you see what he said? My kinsmen according to the flesh, who are Israelites,
Yes, sir.
to whom pertaineth the adoption, the glory, the covenants, the giving of the law, and the service of God, and the promises. Do you see him giving any other nation these things?
No, sir.
He only gave these to Israel. Now, let's go to Ephesians, the 2nd chapter. Now I won't see anybody get around this. Not y'all. I'm talking about my other Israelite brothers. Get around this. Because this right here, this is the coup de grace. We can go home after this scripture right here. Ephesians 2 and 11. Ephesians 2, and I should have read the whole chapter, but that's okay. I'm going to keep it on here. Ephesians 2 and 11. Let's get straight to it. Go ahead and read.
Ephesians chapter 2, verse 11.
Uh-huh.
Wherefore remember that ye being in time past Gentiles in the flesh.
Gentiles in what?
In the flesh.
In the flesh. So if they Gentiles in the flesh, then what are we talking about then? We're talking about Caucasian people, which came out of Japhet, the Gentiles.
Yes, sir.
And more specifically, we are dealing with Greeks right here, because that's who the Ephesians are. They are Greeks. Read that one more time.
Amen. Wherefore remember that ye being in time past Gentiles in the flesh.
Gentile in the flesh. So now you can't get around this. Because if you're Israelite in the flesh, then what does that make you? An Israelite born, right?
Come on.
And now if you were a Gentile in the flesh, what does that make you? A Gentile or Japhetic, or however you want to look at, Caucasian born.
Yes, sir.
Wherefore remember that ye being in times past Gentiles in the flesh,
Who are called uncircumcision.
Now go through the book and see who the book start called uncircumcision. You see he called the Gentiles the uncircumcision.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and read.
Who are called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision of the
Now he
flesh.
said by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh. Who is circumcision in the flesh? That's Israel.
Yes, sir.
So Israel calling the Gentiles Gentiles. This is what he's saying right here. Read that one more time.
Back at the top. Wherefore remember that ye being in time past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh,
Go ahead.
made by hands, that at that time ye were without Christ,
Go ahead.
being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel, and strangers from the covenant of promise,
Go ahead.
having no hope, and without God in the world.
See, they had no hope and was without God in the world. But we are dealing with Gentiles in the flesh.
Yes, sir.
Japhetic people. And more specifically, we are dealing with Greeks right here. Ephesians. Go ahead and read some more.
Verse 13.
I'm going to talk about these were Gentiles that were Jews. Come on, man. Not right here. Because look at what God told Paul to write to them. Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir. Verse 13. But now in Christ Jesus ye, who sometimes were far off, are made nigh by the blood of Christ.
Oh, that's that grace right there they were given, just like Israel.
Come on.
You are made nigh or near by the blood of Christ.
For he is our peace, who have made both one and have broken down the middle wall of partition between us.
Ooh. God broke down that middle wall partition between Israel and the Greeks right here.
Make it plain.
Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir. Having abolished in his flesh the enmity.
Skip to verse 16. We're going to read that. Skip to verse 16. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. 16. And that he might reconcile both unto God in one body by the cross.
Go ahead.
Having slain the enmity thereby.
Now, what is this body right here? It is the church.
Amen.
And that he might reconcile both unto God in one body or one church by the cross, having slain the enmity thereby, or us being enemies. He slayed that.
Yes, sir.
You understand? Because Israel, look, nobody else coming into the Commonwealth of Israel. If you ain't no Israelite, then you might as well kick rocks.
Whoa.
If you're a stranger, this ain't for you. Like the brother's saying now. This ain't for you. Go ahead and read. Keep reading.
17. And came and preached peace to you which were afar off, and to them that were nigh.
Go ahead.
For through him we both have access by one Spirit into the Father.
Who is this both? The Jews and the Gentiles.
Come on.
Through him we both have, by one Spirit, have access unto the Father.
Now therefore, ye are no more strangers and
Well, stop
foreigners.
right there. Who is a stranger? If you are other than the children of Israel, then you are a stranger. Go ahead and read.
Now therefore ye are no more strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints.
But you are no more strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints. If you're a fellow citizen, then you are coming into somebody else's citizenship. Just like we read earlier that the Gentiles should become fellow heirs, right? So they came to somebody else's inheritance. Now you are fellow citizens with the saints. Who are the saints? The Jews.
Yes, sir.
Or the Israelites. Now you coming into their citizenship. Go ahead and read.
Yea. It says, now therefore ye are no more strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints, and of the household of God.
And of the household of God. Verse 20, go ahead and read.
And are built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets.
The prophets too?
Yes, sir.
But you know, I'm a New Testament Christian.
No.
That's what the Gentiles have told you, that you're a New Testament Christian. But this foundation right here is built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets,
Jesus Christ himself being the chief cornerstone.
Now, let's go to Acts the 15th chapter. Acts 15. And we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Acts 15 and 1. Got a lot of ones starting at verse 1 there. Acts 15 and 1. I guess it's how the Lord gave it to me.
Amen.
1 is just as good as 2.
Amen.
Acts 15 and 1. When you get it, brother, start reading.
Yea. So Acts chapter 15, verse 1. And certain men which came down from Judea taught the brethren and said, except ye be circumcised after the manner of Moses, ye cannot be saved.
Now, why would he tell Jews this? Why would he tell us the Jews when the Jews supposed to be circumcised when? At the 8th day. So why would he tell the Jews this? He said, certain men which came down from Judea taught the brethren and said, except ye be circumcised at the manner of Moses, you cannot be saved.
When therefore Paul and Barnabas had no small dissension,
they argued,
and disputation with them, they determined that Paul and Barnabas and certain other of them should go up to Jerusalem unto the apostles and elders about this question.
So now the question is not about the children of Israel being circumcised at the 8th day. It is about the Gentiles being circumcised at the 8th day. Go ahead and read.
Verse 3.
Uh-huh.
And being brought on their way by the church, they passed through Phoenicia.
That's a Greek city, ain't it?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
And Samaria.
Uh-huh.
Declaring the conversion of the Gentiles.
They declared what?
The conversion of the Gentiles.
Didn't we just see the conversion of the Gentiles right there in Ephesians, the 2nd chapter?
Mm-hmm.
These are the Gentiles we talking about. Japhetic people. Not no Jews. And being brought on their way by the church, they passed through Phoenicia and Samaria, declaring the conversion of the Gentiles. Uh-huh.
They caused great joy unto all the brethren.
Now. Let's go to Numbers, the 1st chapter. Numbers, the 1st chapter. And this is what I don't understand about my Israelite brothers, how they don't see this. Because all of them say this. All Israelites know this. Numbers, the 1st chapter, and verse 18. Numbers 1 and 18. When you get it, start reading. Numbers 1 and 18.
Numbers chapter 1, verse 18.
Uh-huh.
And they assembled all the congregation together on the 1st day of the 2nd month.
Uh-huh.
And they declared their pedigrees after their families,
Uh-huh.
by the house of their fathers.
They declared their pedigrees by the house of who?
Their fathers.
Their fathers. And this is how your pedigree or your nationality is determined.
Yes,
by
sir.
God. It is by your father.
Yes, sir.
Not your mother. And that's how we know that the one that called himself a Jew, he ain't no Jew. He haven't even read this. And this is in the Torah.
Come on, brother.
Right? The first 5 books.
Come on.
And he said, if your mother is a Jew, then you are a Jew. But your... Don't start, Jerry. So, he said, if your mother is a Jew, then you are a Jew. And the book says right here that the pedigree is reckoned by who? The father. So whatever your father is, that's what you are. If your father is Greek, then you are Greek. If your father is a Naphtali, then you are Naphthalite. It's that simple. If your father is an Indian, then that's what you are, an Indian. And I want to make one thing clear too. Not that we got nothing against the Indians, or if you will, the Native Americans, but they are not Israelites.
Come on.
Just like the Hispanic people, they are not Israelites. You know how I know that? Because both of them are natives of this continent. The Israelites natives of the African continent.
Teach.
You understand? The Hispanic people are natives of this continent. The Indians are natives of this continent. What happened? The Spaniards came from Europe, came over here and slept with the Indian woman, and that's how you got the Hispanic race.
Teach.
Conceived right here on this continent.
Teach.
Talking about they came through the Bering Strait, that was Ephraim. Okay, well how could that be Ephraim? Ephraim's mother and father were black. Ephraim came out of Joseph, right? Joseph was black. What was the mama? Egyptian. Both of them black, so how they turn these colors then? Man, let me quit. Let's go now. Let's go to Luke, the 3rd chapter, Luke 3. So the genealogy is reckoned by who? Your pedigree is reckoned by who?
Father.
The fathers. Now, we don't have to read the rest of that. Let's go now. Let's go to Luke, the 3rd chapter. We almost there. Luke 3. But I want to show you something. Luke 3, and we're going to pick it up at verse 23. Luke 3 and 23. And the proof is in the pudding. Luke 3 and 23. Go ahead and read.
Luke chapter 3, verse 23.
Uh-huh.
And Jesus himself began to be about 30 years of age, being, as was supposed, the son of Joseph.
As supposed who?
The
son of Joseph. Go ahead and read.
Which was the son of Heli.
Which was the son of, you see how the pedigree is reckoned by the father?
Come on.
Which was the son of Heli,
Which was the son of Mathat.
Uh-huh.
Which was the son of Levi.
Now, we're not going to read all this, but keep reading though.
Which was the son of Micah.
Uh-huh.
Which was the son of Janah.
Uh-huh.
Which was the son of Joseph.
See how it's reckoned by the man? Or by the father? Verse 25, go ahead.
Which was the son of Mattathias.
Matthias.
Matthias, which was the son of Amos, which was the son of Nahum,
Go ahead.
which was the son of Isla, which was the son of Negan.
We're going to stop right there. I was just showing you that the pedigree is reckoned by the man or the father. And whatever your father is, that's what you are. Let's go to Acts the 16th chapter. Acts 16. I brought you there for a reason. Just hold on for a minute. Acts 16 and 1. Acts 16 and 1. Go ahead and read.
Acts chapter 16, verse 1. Then came he to Derbe and Lystra.
Now these are Greek cities. Go ahead and read.
And behold, a certain disciple was there named Timotheus,
Uh-huh.
the son of a certain woman, which was a Jewess.
Now wait a minute. His mama was a Jew. Timotheus.
Which was a Jewess and believed, but his father was a Greek.
But his father was what?
A Greek.
So what does that make him?
A Greek.
Otherwise it would have said his mother was a Jew and his father was a Jew. It said his mama was a Jew and his father was a Greek. Isn't that plain English right there?
Amen.
How could you get this messed up? Verse 2, what does it say?
Which was well reported of by the brethren
See, they knew this. Go ahead.
that were at Lystra and Iconium.
Greek cities. Verse 3, go ahead.
Him would Paul have to go forth with him,
Uh-huh.
and took and circumcised him because of the Jews which
He
were in
did
those quarters.
what? He did what? He took him and circumcised him because of the Jews,
Which were in those quarters.
He must have looked more like us than like a Gentile. Because you know how that goes. A lot of times, a Gentile and an Israelite get together and have a baby. That baby might look more like the Israelites. But then I know an Israelite woman. She don't know she Israelite. And then she got a Gentile husband, which is Caucasian. And the boy got straight hair, white skin, and look white. If you didn't know that was his mama, you wouldn't even be able to tell. He looked like Caucasian. So, but this is the other way around, right? It looked like, because he circumcised him because of the Jews. So he must look more like one of us than one of them. Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir. It says, which were in those quarters, for they knew all that his father was a Greek. And as they went...
Okay, we're going to stop right there. All of them knew that his father was a Greek. Let's go now. Let's go to Romans the 11th chapter. Romans 11. Romans 11, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Romans 11 and 1. Now look at this. Now how can you get this mixed up right here? Romans 11 and 1. Go ahead and read.
Romans chapter 11, verse 1. I say then, have God cast away his people? God forbid. For I also am an Israelite of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of
Because
Benjamin.
he's breaking it down, right? My brother tell me, how could he be all of them? I don't know. When you see him, ask him. So he is an Israelite of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. Who did the Israelites come out of? Abraham. And who did the tribe of Benjamin come out of? Jacob. Go ahead and read verse 2.
God hath not cast away his people which he foreknew. What ye not, what the scripture saith, Elias, how he maketh intercession to God against Israel?
Now, so you know, Paul breaking down his pedigree right here. So now, skip to verse 11. Skip to verse 11. Go ahead and start reading.
I say then, if they stumble that they should fall,
Talk about Israel. Go ahead.
God forbid. But rather through their fall, salvation is come unto the Gentiles.
Whether through their fall, salvation is come to who?
The Gentiles.
The Gentiles. Go ahead and read.
For to provoke them to jealousy. Now.
To provoke Israel to jealousy. Now, why would I use another Israelite to provoke you to jealousy? I'm going to use a Gentile, a Caucasian, to provoke you to jealousy. Not another Israelite. Go ahead and read.
Now if the fall of them be the riches of the world, and diminishing of them the riches of the Gentiles,
Go ahead.
how much more their fullness?
Go ahead.
For I speak unto you, Gentiles, inasmuch as I am the apostle of the Gentiles. I magnify mine office, if by any means I may provoke to immolation them which are my flesh.
Oh, he said that I might provoke them that are my flesh. If by any means I provoke to emulation them, well, I tell you what, let's go back for a minute. Let's go back. He said, for I speak to you Gentiles as much as I am the apostle of the Gentiles. I magnify my office. So we know he talked to the Gentiles, right? Look at what else he said. If by any means I may provoke to emulation them which are my flesh. So he talking about provoke to emulation the Israelites, right?
Yes, sir.
And he's talking to who though? The Gentiles.
Gentiles.
Now how can you get this mixed up? Do we need to read this again? Keep reading, brother.
If by any means if I may provoke to immolation them which are my flesh, and might save some of them.
Go ahead.
For if the casting away of them be the reconciling of the world, what shall the receiving of them be?
Go ahead.
But life from the dead.
Now he talking about his people. He said, what shall the receiving of them be? The Israelites. But life from the dead. Because they are dry bones in the valley at this time right here in the first century as well as now. Dry bones in the valley.
Yes, sir.
So he said, if I can bring them back to life,
Amen.
go ahead and read.
16.
Uh-huh.
For if the first fruit be holy, the lump is also holy.
Well, who's the first fruits?
Right.
Israel.
Yes, sir.
Israel is the first fruits. Uh-huh.
For if the first fruit be holy, the lump is also holy.
Uh-huh.
And if the root be holy,
Go
so
ahead.
are the branches.
Uh-huh.
And if some of the branches be broken off, and thou being a wild olive tree.
Stop right there. He said, if some of the branches be broken off, who are the branches? That's Israel. He said, and if some of the branches be broken off, and thou being a wild olive tree, talking about the Gentile. You are a wild olive tree. Uh-huh.
Were grafted in among them.
Wait a minute. The Gentiles were grafted in among the Jews or the Israelites. Does everybody see this? Do y'all see this? The Gentiles, the Japhetic people were grafted in among the Israelites. Go ahead and read.
And with them partaketh of the root and fatness of the olive tree.
Go ahead.
Boast not against the branches.
He said, don't boast against the Israelites, because the Israelites, those are branches. Go ahead and read.
But if thou boast, thou bearest not the root,
Uh-huh.
but the root thee.
You don't bear the root bear you. Who the root? That's Christ there. But who did Christ come out of though? The Israelites or the Jews. So you don't bear the root bear you. Don't be boasting, Gentiles, because you don't bear the root bear you. Go ahead and read.
Thou would say then, the branches were broken off, that I might be grafted
He
in.
said, the Gentiles say, the branches, Israel, they were broken off, that I might be grafted in, that I might take over this thing. I might take over the word of God. No. And you see, too, they have actually tried to do it. Because you had some of these people, Gentiles, walking around with the apostles, Clement, Ignatius. Some of these guys was walking around with, I forget the other guy's name right now, walked around with the apostles, Gentiles, walked around with them. And then they start writing their books. Hence, the lost books, the Apocrypha. Uh-oh, let me be quiet. I won't start nothing. Go ahead and read, brother.
Yes, sir. Verse 20.
Uh-huh.
Well, because of the unbelief, they were broken off.
Now he's talking about Israel. Now he said because of their unbelief, they were broken off. Uh-huh.
And thou standest by faith,
Uh-huh.
be not high-minded, but
He
fear.
said, look, they were broken off, and you can be broken off too. So don't be high-minded, but you better fear, just like God told them to fear.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and read.
For if God spared not the natural branches,
Who are the natural branches?
Israel,
Israel. Uh-huh.
take heed, lest he also spare not thee.
It says, if God spared not the natural branches, take heed, lest he also spare not thee. Now, if he was telling, if these were Gentiles, Jews that were Gentiles, which were Jews, then why would he be calling them natural branches? I don't care what country you in, Israel, you still of the natural seed. You still of the natural branch, which is an Israelite. So he told, he said, look, for if God spared not the natural branches, take heed lest he also spare not thee, Gentiles. So I don't care what country Israel is in, they still a part of what? The natural branches.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and read.
22. Behold, therefore, the goodness and severity of God on them which fail, severity.
Go ahead.
But toward thee, goodness, if thou continue in his goodness.
He's talking to the Gentiles now. He said, behold, therefore, goodness and severity of God on them which fail, severity, but towards thee, talking about the Gentiles, goodness, if thou continue in the goodness. Go ahead and read.
Otherwise thou also shalt be cut off.
Otherwise you'll be cut off too. So he's telling the Gentiles, right, y'all continue in this word too, just like the Jews. They continue this word, y'all continue this word, and just like they were cut off, you will be cut off too. Don't be boasting and high-minded thinking you're doing something now.
Right.
Yes, sir.
You don't bear the root bear you. You were taught by Israel. Israel wasn't taught by you. Go ahead and read verse 25. I'm sorry, verse 23. Go ahead.
23, yes, sir. And they also, if they abide not still in unbelief, shall be grafted in.
Go ahead.
For God is able to be
grafted. Well, wait a minute. You're going too fast there.
Come on, bro.
Read that one again. What verse you at?
23. And they also, if they abide not still in unbelief.
If they abide not in unbelief, what's going to happen?
Shall be grafted in.
Israel's still going to be grafted in.
Amen.
At some point when the Lord returns, he's going to bring his people back to their country, to Israel, to Jerusalem.
Amen.
So he said, even if they don't believe, they still going to be grafted in.
For God is able to graft them in again.
Now, who is he talking about? He said he's going to graft them in again. Israel.
That's right, bro.
Now, who else could he be talking about? Now, what does verse 24 say?
4. If thou wert cut out of the olive tree, which is wild by nature.
Talking about the Gentiles, they're wild by nature. Go ahead.
And were grafted contrary to the nature into the good olive tree.
You were grafted contrary to the nature into a good olive tree, meaning Israel.
Much more shall these, which be the natural branches,
Israel,
be grafted into their own olive tree.
Now, who are we talking about? Whose olive tree is it? It's Israel's olive tree. And the Gentile got to be grafted in. And not only the Gentile, but the stranger has to be grafted in to Israel's olive tree.
Yes, sir.
Let's not get this mixed up. Let's go to Psalms 22. We got two more. Psalms 22. We almost there. Psalms 22. And we're going to pick it up at verse 22. But more plainly, Paul is talking to Gentiles, Japhetic people, not Gentiles or Jews, Gentiles which were Jews, but he is talking to Gentiles which are Japhetic people. Psalms 22 and 27. Psalms 22 and 27. When you get it, go ahead and read.
Psalm chapter 22, verse 27. All the ends of the world shall remember and turn unto the Lord.
See, all the nations going to remember and turn unto the Lord. All nations. Does everybody see this?
Amen.
All nations, not Israel, all Israel. It said all the ends of the world shall remember and turn unto the Lord.
And all the kindreds of the nations shall worship before thee.
That's plain English. All the kindreds of the nations shall worship before thee. All of them. What does all imply?
All.
Everybody. I'm going to show you. Go ahead and read.
For the kingdom is the Lord, and he is the governor among the nations.
No, the kingdom is Israel's, and he is the
Lord's.
The kingdom is the Lord's.
Yes, sir.
And he is the governor of the nations. Verse 29. Go ahead.
All they that be fat upon earth shall eat and worship.
Go ahead.
All they that go down to the dust shall bow before him. And none can keep alive his own soul.
And that goes for the Israelite as well as the Gentile as well as the stranger. All of them, you're going to go down the grave and then he say, look, and all they that fat upon the earth shall eat and worship, and all they that go down to the dust shall bow before him. So they're going to bow before him. They got to come up out the dust, right?
Yes.
And ain't nobody going to escape. Israel, Gentile, Hamite, nobody going to escape. Because every knee going to bow to him. Let's go to Revelation. Revelation 7. So he said, and all kindreds of the nations shall worship before thee, right? Revelation 7 and 9. Revelation 7 and 9. We got one more. Revelation 7 and 9. When you get it, go ahead and read it.
Revelation chapter 7, verse 9. After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people,
go ahead,
and tongues.
Now you see that? He said, look, after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number. Of what? All nations and kindreds and people. Because all nations are going to worship before thee. Look at what they did. Go ahead and read. Start it over.
After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues,
go ahead,
stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes,
go ahead,
and palm in their hands.
What does white robes represent? Righteousness. So all these multitude, people, nations, kindreds, and tongues walk in righteousness. Man, this is what I read to brother last night. It was over then. Everybody started laughing. He walked off laughing. Everybody around him laughing. It was over. Verse 10, go ahead.
And cried with a loud voice, saying, salvation to our God.
Salvation to who?
Our God.
Our God. This is what all the multitude, people, and nations were saying. Salvation to our God,
which sit upon the throne, and to the Lamb.
Skip to verse 13. Skip to verse 13. Go ahead and read it.
And one of the elders answered, saying unto me, what are these which are arrayed in white robes?
Go ahead.
And whence came they? And I said unto him, Sir, thou knowest. And he said to me, these are they which came out of great tribulation, and have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb.
Go ahead.
Therefore are they before the throne of God, and serve him day and night in his temple.
All nations are going to worship before thee. Therefore are they before the throne of God and serve him day and night. Who are these? People of all people, multitudes, nations, and tongues, and kindreds of the earth. You see this? They walking in righteousness. They came under the blood of Jesus.
Hallelujah.
Finish that.
And he that sitteth on the throne shall dwell amongst them.
Not they going to him, but he going to dwell among them. See, the kingdom going to be on the earth.
Yes, sir.
That's another lesson. Let's go to Romans, the 2nd chapter. This will be last. Romans 2, and we're going to pick up in verse 9, because I want you to understand something. Romans 2 and verse 9. Like Paul was saying, don't boast against the branches. You don't bear the root bear you. Romans 2 and 9. So the Gentiles that. Romans 2 and 9. Go ahead and read.
Romans chapter 2, verse 9.
I should have read over there where it told you, look, you are partaking of our spiritual things. Should we not partake of your carnal things? That's what Paul was telling the Gentiles. We can say that now. You partaking of our spiritual things. Should we not? Because look, it's more so-called Christians in the world than anybody. And now I hear too that a lot of Muslims read this book. So you partaking in our book. Should we not partake of your carnal things? Should we supposed to got that 40 acres of milk? We didn't get that. But anyway. Romans 2 and 9. Go ahead and read it.
Romans chapter 2, verse 9. Tribulation and anguish upon every soul of man that doeth evil.
Now who is every soul?
Every soul.
That's everybody, right? Every
Yes,
nation. Go ahead and read.
of the Jew first.
Uh-oh, look who gonna get whooped first. Go ahead and read.
Of the Jew first.
Uh-huh.
And also of the Gentiles.
And also of the Gentiles. Go ahead and read.
Both, but glory, honor, and peace to every man that worketh good, to the Jew first.
Oh, glory, honor, and peace to the Jew first. See, the Jew come first. Just like we read over there in Isaiah the 49th chapter. He gonna gather Jacob first, right? Then he said he gonna be a light to the Gentiles. But he gonna gather Jacob first. He said, look, but glory and honor and peace to every man that worketh good, to the Jew first,
And also to the Gentile.
and also to the Gentile. Why?
For there is no respect of persons with God.
There is no respect of persons with God. I hope everybody got some understanding from this lesson. Thank you.
Hallelujah.
Now we're going to reading of the announcements.
Right. Grace and peace to our brothers and sisters here at the Israel Church of the Living God. If this is your first visit, we hope you come back and worship with us again next Sabbath. There's no eating and drinking in the sanctuary with exception for water. Brothers and sisters, please adhere to the dress code of Israel's Church of the Living God. Brothers, please remove any head covering upon entering the building. Do not wear sleeveless shirts, fleece jogging pants, short, tight-fitting pants, or any other revealing attire. Sisters, you must have a head covering. This is required. Hat, scarf, etc. Do not wear pants, shorts, skirts, midriffs, or see-through blouses, mini dresses, mini skirts, halter tops of any kind, revealing splits, tight-fitting, or cleavage revealing attire, modest apparel only. We have Bibles and scarves available. If you use a Bible or scarf that belongs to Israel's Church of the Living God, please return it prior to leaving. If you live in the Lake County, Illinois area, please watch our television program, The Word for Life, every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Comcast Channel 17. You can visit our Facebook page, Israel's Church of the Living God, to post questions or comments. All questions will be answered according to the Bible. Click the Facebook like button to see daily posts in the news feed. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at ICOTLG567. In an effort to expand the church ministry, we have started a building fund. You can make your secure payments online using our PayPal account at israelschurch.org. Or you can send your donation to the attention of ICOTLG at P.O. Box 8933, Waukegan, Illinois, 60079. We thank you for your past contributions and hope for your continued support. Free will donations are welcome and appreciated. Finally, brothers and sisters, please continue to pray for one another. This is this weekly Sabbath day announcement.
If you'd like to contact us here at Israel's Church of the Living God, you can give us a call at 847-636-4792 or 847-246-4421. We also would like for you to join us on our website. It's israelschurch.org. israelschurch.org, where you can go and follow us on Facebook, and you can look at some of our previously recorded videos on YouTube. And for those that are viewing our YouTube channel, we would like for you to like and subscribe to our channel. If you're in need of prayer or counseling, spiritual counseling, you can see myself or Brother Caleb, or give us a call at one of those numbers, 847-636-4792 or 847-246-4421. If you would like to be baptized, you can see myself or Brother Caleb, or give us a call at one of those numbers. Israel's Church of the Living God will be celebrating the Day of Pentecost. It starts Saturday, June the 15th at sundown. We will be having service June the 16th, that's Sunday, at 1 p.m. Okay? That's June the 16th at 1 p.m. We will be celebrating the Day of Pentecost. We want everybody to come on out and celebrate the Pentecost with us.